Caleb, as I said, don't worry. This will be a safe space. We're going to, hey,
He's
hi, everybody.
smiling.
There it is. I got Caleb's smile. Hey, everyone. I am super excited to have this conversation. I feel like I've known both of you guys for a long, long time, but I was actually thinking about it last night where Caleb, I think we've met like a year and a half ago, and Dov, I think we met like 4 months ago.
Less.
Yeah, slightly less. I'm not saying which one of you I think is more special. So you're both just wonderful as you are. But really honored to have both of you here. We're going to talk, I mean, you guys know commerce as well as anyone. I'm sure we'll talk a little bit about AI because that's a fun topic. We'll talk about fractional work. We'll talk about kind of future of commerce stuff. But I think, first of all, would love for you each to introduce yourself. Dov, I'll start with you, please. Like, not just a 30-second, like tell us your background.
Okay, we're going to go, like, when do you want me to start? How far back?
Bar mitzvah.
Oh man, okay. No, I don't think anybody wants to know about that. It was a sunny day in November of 1999. A little bit about me. So I've been in e-com now for about 13-ish years, maybe. I did a little bit of stuff for a couple of years coming out of school in the sports realm when I was disappointed by the fact that I wasn't going to be a professional baseball player and thought I wanted to go into the business side of sports. Played around there for a little bit. I did some other stuff for about 3 or 4 years. And then my entry into e-com world was with a custom photo company, actually, called Polaroid Photo Bar. That was a Polaroid licensee. And for people who don't know or are not familiar with the story, it's well worth taking a look at it. Polaroid was Apple before Apple. Edwin Land was a legendary founder that Steve Jobs actually studied a bunch and admired and maybe modeled some of his behavior after, and for the good and the bad. But anyway, they were a legendary visionary company that didn't see the digital age coming, and basically over the last 15, 20 years have become a licensing company. So our startup was called Polaroid Photo Bar, and our idea was that we were going to make it easy and fun for people to do something special with their photos that they were taking on more and more on this device. And so the original concept was a physical retail concept. We opened 10 stores across the country, including a flagship on the Strip in Vegas. Opened a Polaroid museum there, which was an amazing experience. Could do probably a whole pod on just that one and the partnerships we did and the history there. That was a lot of fun. Anyway, that was for about 2-3 years, and the reaction was great. And then basically gave the license back for a host of different reasons, and rebranded a company called My Photo. And the sort of back half of this 10-year period of my life that I'm not getting back, well, it was a great experience and I learned a ton, but I'm still not getting it back. The past is in the past. It was a great time. And, that was really where I cut my teeth in e-com and running digital businesses. And, we were fully vertical. We managed, everything in-house, all the way down to manufacturing and marketing and everything like that. And so got a lot of experience doing a lot of different things, a lot of different things, including working the floor in the warehouse during Black Friday period and stuff like that. So that was amazing. Took that through the beginning of COVID. And then basically got an opportunity to head on over to OpenStore, which is where I've been for the last 3.5 years. OpenStore, if you're not familiar with it, is basically, the best way to describe it is an aggregator of Shopify brands. I know that's a little bit of a dirty word. Was at an aggregator too, a smaller aggregator or collector of brands, which he'll share with you guys. But, at our peak, owned close to 50 independent Shopify brands. And my role at the company has been to oversee storefronts. So each of these companies, like I said, has been run independently. It's own.com, where we drive, all of our traffic, paid and otherwise too. And so everything, including, the tech stack that we use on those stores, to CRO, to landing page build out, to supporting other cross-functional teams in their efforts. As you guys know, in a business like this, just about every part of the business somehow impacts the website in some way. And so, yeah, that's what I've been up to the last 3.5 years. And so I've got a bunch of war stories over my time in this world, and a lot of fun stuff that I've learned along the way. So that's me in 2 minutes. Did I do good?
That was awesome, man. Thank you.
Okay.
Really appreciate it. I have
Awesome.
50 follow-ups, but I will let Caleb do a proper intro first.
One for each store.
And then for sure. Caleb, please take it away.
Yeah. I accidentally got into e-com. I was going to school when in Utah to become an airline pilot, and I was working part-time in a warehouse and working customer service job to pay for school and pay for an apartment. And the company I was at was this little family startup that they started doing influencers before it was cool. And they blew up. They went from doing a couple $1,000s in revenue a day to over 20,000-30,000 in a day in a week's period. And they didn't know what to do. It was too big for them. And so they sold the business off to a company called THG. So I started THG in their customer service team answering phones. And I was a stubborn person back then. I still am now. But I went to the VP there because he cut my commissions and went right at him and started complaining about how it wasn't fair and how he was wrong about something. And he took a liking somehow to me because of that. And so he took me under his wing, and him and the CEO of that division both just spent hours with me training me on different things. And so I ended up dropping out of college and working at THG, worked my way up from that customer service rep to being head of performance marketing 6-7 years later, moving from Utah to New York during that period and helping open their New York office, and was there for about 6-7 years. Like I said, left and went to a company called Skeepers. It's a B2B company doing influencer seeding. My background, mass majority of it's been in beauty. Skeepers was the same thing. Mass majority of their clients are in beauty, Sephora, Sunday Riley, etc. Realized that B2B is extremely not as fun as D2C is the best way to put it. And so I left after about a year, went to Win Brands Group, which is another brand consolidator. THG also had 40 plus different brands across the entire world. So pretty much every company I've been in, other than that stint at Skeepers, has been consolidators or parent companies to a lot of different brands. And so that's really all I've known as well. And I was there for about 2 years and just recently left back at the end of March to do my own consulting and go out on my own and do that.
I love both your backgrounds. It's so interesting. Just because, most of the people here are people who know you, but don't know me. I ran a brand for a while, so I have all the fun stories, Dove, and all the gray. I want to pretend it's from that, though. It's just I'm old. And then, switched over to commerce tech in 2017. Co-founded a shipping company called Passport, and then was the president at Loop, and then co-founded Orita 2 years ago, a little bit less, which is crazy to think about. And we do AI customer segments. That's how I know the two of you guys, and, Spanx, Third Love, Rem Beauty, ... like helping them get more out of their existing list. Enough about us. But guys, you're both I love the fact that you've seen so many. It's not just that you've seen so many brands, you've seen so many different parts of the business, right? It's not like even feeling customer service and the marketing side, right, is so different from a lot of people where I feel like they come in and they specialize right away. Caleb, I want to start with you. Like, you had that experience at THG and you came up in the, literally being empathetic to customers, right? And then you've switched over much more to, and I don't know the right way to say it, but let's say things in digital marketing, right? Like, your experience is so broad. What was that transition like? And what do you still carry with you from that early stage and that empathy you have from having served customers?
Yeah, I wish there's two parts of this. One is I tried to figure out how to talk about this on a LinkedIn post, but every time I draft it, it always comes across like I'm telling people not to get paid, which is a problem. But I think the benefit that I had is I was 19 when I started in that warehouse, and I was 20 once I got out of working in customer service, and I moved to a data analyst role, then moved into marketing. And I was paid $10 an hour for the first year or two of that, even as I was moving and doing marketing related things. And so the pressure on me to perform was bare minimum because I cost nothing. And so they could just take their time and be like, hey, work on this project for 3 weeks. There's no deadlines. Just figure it out. So basically it was a paid internship, but within a company for multiple years. And so for example, when I moved into marketing, they just had me for 3 months, just do data analysis on the marketing side and do that for meta ads for 3 months. And that was it. And at night, after I would go through and learn things, the CEO of that division and the VP that was there, they were from the UK, so they would work late nights and stuff before the next day in the UK. And so they would spend hours into the night just teaching me things, literally going through what I'd learned that day and teaching me. And it's one where I say, I really wish more people could have that non-pressure to perform right away in their career. Because it gave me 2-3 years of just, okay, this guy's paid $10 an hour. My first salary there was $30,000 a year. And it was I was so ecstatic as a 20-year-old, 21-year-old, yes, let's go. But it was amazing that way.
For what's worth, right, is taking it from the operator or the hiring manager side in that example, it also sounds like you were willing to really go deep on a lot of different topics and bring the energy to learn, going into data.
For sure. There was for sure that, but also I was 19, 20 years old. So getting paid anything above $10 an hour, I was ecstatic because I was a college student just making stuff happen. I lived in an apartment with 4 or 5 other guys and we were just making stuff happen. So that's what I mean, where it's the expectation for what my life was at that point was so low. And the advice I got from the beginning was, it doesn't matter what you make in your 20s, it's what you learn. And so that was my mentality through all of that. And then like once I got married, had kids, I left TSG because I was like, okay, like I need to make money and provide for my family. But that first couple of years in particular, it was just, there was so little pressure on me and also a pressure on making an income or pushing the business and like all that it just allowed me time to really just actually dig into, like I did ops, I did analytics for marketing all over the place because they could just throw me in and be like, oh, let's see what you can figure out.
I love it. Dov, I want to ask you also like a similar type of follow-up to your background. I mean, whether it's in my photo story or like having seen what you've seen in OpenStore, or I mean, all three of us, right? Like we see so many different tech companies and brands that we may not even be formally affiliated with. What are the things where like, if you think about the brands that are most successful, what are the things that are like deeply must be held inside the brand? Is there a certain part of it, or is it actually thinking about the fractional side? Hey, you can outsource every bit of a company, and you could like be a one-man shop type of thing. Where do you see them? And obviously, like your mileage may vary; it'll be different brand by brand, yada yada yada. So I'll give you all the caveats up front. But what are the things where, like, for the most part, you actually find the best brands really hold in house, and what are the things that they're able to maybe kind of outsource?
Well, yeah, like you said, I mean, I think the answer varies for sure. And I think also not just brand to brand, but over time, right? I mean, the ecosystem that we exist in today, the realities of how to build a business like this today are so different than 2 years ago, 4 years ago, 10 years ago, right? Like, I remember you think of like Warby Parker, which was like one of the original, D2C darlings, right? And funny, full circle piece of news that came out about them last week, which was a little bit of a sidebar, right? They're ending the try-on program, the free try-on program at home. Why? Because 10, 12, whatever years later, they've got 300 retail stores and they're within striking distance of, the majority of their consumers or whatever. And, better experience to come into the store and try 100 pairs of glasses on than get, 3 for free in the mail, right? And they were like the OG, part of the OG crew of brands, and what it took to be successful back then when they were starting very different today, right? And we all know the reasons why. One, I think, is a big part of the reason why. And, all these other things, what the evolution of Meta and, all these other tools and barriers to entry that have been removed now for people who want to start a business, blessing and a curse. But in my experience, the things that I've seen that remain consistent over time, and I think this definitely applies to part of the question as it relates to like outsourcing, is, and I definitely saw this, in our experience at OpenStore, right? Like the obsession of the founder about the idea and about the product and about the consumer is something that I don't think will ever go away as it relates to being a key part of being successful in building a brand. I mean, how could it, right? Like, okay, so now you don't need tons of money to be able to build a good, highly performing website. You don't need that anymore, right? 10 years ago, when we were running the photo business, right? I can't tell you, I mean, I'm sure we've all had similar experiences. The conversations we had with folks on that side, yeah, that's going to take, that's going to take 6 months and 50 grand. And we may or may not even.
I was going 100 to 200, but yeah, I'm with you.
I'm talking about one little feature, right? Like the story I tell is like, I went from like, we want to do buy now, pay later. Oh, that's going to be a 6-month project and it's going to cost 50 grand and we can't do anything else. And then like, you go into Shopify world and it's like, oh, you just need to hit the checkbox in the back end and now I have buy now, pay later. Right. So like that stuff is not a differentiator anymore. I'm not saying not at all, but not nearly to the level that it used to be. Even stuff like Meta, the arbitrage opportunities like are not, like you can't like hack the system anymore. Yeah, of course there are ways that some brands, do better than others. And there's some media buyers that are more successful because they've got their tactics. But the thing that's never going to be replaced, even in an AI world, in my opinion, is just the obsession of the consumer, of the founder. And we saw this, like I said, sometimes at OpenStore, right? Like it's just hard to replace, like even when we would buy the store from the merchant, right? Hard to like create that same level of dedication and obsession that the founder had when they were running the business and got it to the point that they did.
Well, I think one of the things that changed in the last decade is as it became easier and easier to start a company. And I don't just mean on the software side, but like supply chain, right? When I started my business, it was 2010. I was also like early vintage. I just didn't have the Warby Parker cast. I didn't.
Tell us about your brand, Aaron.
I'll get there in a minute. But like literally the like going on Alibaba to start the sourcing was like a game changer. And then it got easier and easier and easier. And so kind of double clicking on what you just said, the like passion, it's not just the passion of the founder, but their depth of understanding of the customer because it's easier. Now there's so many better products. I think subjectively better, but like, cause it's niche by niche. Right. And I'm finding like the best companies are the ones that like really deeply know who they are. It's like Tracksmith is this incredible brand where every single touch point is exactly there. Ministry of Supply, like they are so obsessed with product more than I've ever seen. like a set of founders. And like those to me are the companies that I like. This isn't judging if they're like more successful, less successful, but those to me are like the businesses that are highly likely to be much more sustainable. So I'm very much there.
For sure.
My I don't know I can't tell you about my story. We started a watch company. It was meant to be a 3-month project, turned into 7 years full time. We sold it to Custom Ink eventually because we did print on demand. So like photos of your kid, we did sports licensing, we did corporate gifting. Actually like was gonna stop and go back and get a consulting job after my MBA. And then like within 2 months sold $40,000 of watches to Google and 60,000 to Facebook. And this was like 2010. And I called my parents and I was like, guys, I'm going to keep doing this shitty startup. Somehow, some way we just like, and it was like the anniversary gift for employees. And like, I still know a lot of people who like have a random like Jinky watch from back then that I can give you 500 problems. But the number one was we were really good at a lot of stuff, but we weren't hyper-focused. We had way too many channels. Like logically, it made sense because it was all coming to the same production facility because it was print on demand. But yeah, just like no focus. So we didn't get a depth of understanding of our customer at the level that we should have is kind of like my TLDR. Caleb, I've got questions about doing the fractional CMO work, but if there's anything that you wanted to jump in on, also, I know this conversation
No,
is
you both hit it on the head.
Okay. Talk to me about being a fractional CMO for hire. I'm a brand owner. What are the characteristics of the owners who are ready to have somebody be fractional and like really take this on? What are the characteristics of the folks who aren't? Like Dov, I really appreciated how you talked about it's not just the company, but it's also like the period and the life cycle of the company too. Yeah, Caleb, like who are the best customers? Like who should be looking for you? Or
Yeah, I think one of the reasons I'm doing this is because I've worked at parent companies or like the consolidators. That's all that I've done. It gives, I think Dov, you'll agree with me on this. Like, it gives us an unfair advantage when it comes to consulting or helping people because we have a better sense of how to prioritize and how to work cross-functionally across so many different things at once. So for me, I started looking into it and I realized it kind of fit what I was doing now, but I could hyper focus on what I'm really good at and help the brands that I feel like I can help the most. My theory, put my tinfoil hat on, is the number one role that gets fired or let go at a company is marketing. And I believe personally that a lot of the times that is because marketers try to believe that they can do it at any stage of a company, but there are marketers that are really, really good at different stages and they can't transition outside of that period. And for me, I realized I'm really good at companies that do about 5 million to 50 million in revenue. Once they get past that, can I function? Yeah, I can do okay. I can do a decent job at a larger company, but the drag of it moving so much slower because if you have so many more people, so many more things, just doesn't align with what I'm doing. And then if they're too small, then there's just not enough resources to make it worth the founder's money to use me. So a lot of the brands that come to me, like I had one yesterday who they're on the smaller side, and instead of trying to pitch them, I was like, they would churn with me in 3 months because I can't add enough value for my rate to what they actually need. So I did like an hour-long phone call, just kind of pointing them in the right direction, introduced them to a couple contractors, and then sent them on their way. And then 3, 6, 12 months from now, they might come back because they've got to the stage where they need me. But a lot of time the brands they're either brands who are just ready to start scaling. They need leadership and direction. Like, how do we get out of just doing Google or just doing Meta? Or they're brands who are doing like 20 million who just did a bunch of layoffs or they just had somebody leave and they're just trying to figure out like, how do we pick up the pieces and figure out what to do next? I'm really good in that sweet spot where it's like, okay, how do we build the plan from just setting up the channels and the cross function, getting them to where it's scaling and doing well. And then I hand it off to somebody else. Cause once it gets past that, can I do it? Yeah, but I get bored because it's all the fun is now gone and now it's to a more stable state.
You kind of started with a couple prompts, right? One was like, hey, we want to, and I'm kind of turning your words a little bit, but like one is like, look, our team is shrunk or we just need something. We need somebody who like is kind of high horsepower to either hold it together or to like help us set the vision. 2 is like, hey, we're doing well in Google, but how do we go diversify channels? Are there other prompts that people, again, not just for you, but like it's time to actually go think about like going to get somebody fractionally?
Yeah, I think a lot of times it's just people, again, why marketers get let go so often is they come in with an expectation of what they actually need and it's not the right thing. So they go, I need a VP. because marketing is getting complicated. They bring somebody in and then they go make ads, and the guy that's sitting there like, I haven't made ads in 10 years. I don't know what you want me to do. And then 3 months, 6 months later, they got let go. So I think a lot of times, like the people I chat with, I'm kind of filtering them away from me sometimes, because I'm like, you don't need me. You need somebody who can make ads. And so I think a lot of times the fractional space, and there's going to be people who say, oh, you can be a fractional in a company for a long time. But for me, it's more, let me help you figure out what you actually need, get you set up, and then I exit. And a lot of times either I exit completely or I stay on. Like I have one brand who they pay me to be around for a couple hours a week just to kind of check in. The founder calls me once in a while just to ask my opinion on things. Happy to do that. But a lot of the brands, they come to me and it was like, no, you need someone who makes ads. Like that is half the cost. Go get someone that makes ads.
I think the longitudinal relationship piece, I know you kind of put that to the side, but I think that tends to really help founders, whether it's paid in a consultant or just a friend who's like senior business over time, and like they can actually jump in and help. So I'm grateful that you threw that in. The framing I tend to think about a lot when people talk about hiring is so aligned with what you just said, which is, what are the jobs to be done? Like, I don't care what the title is. Like, assume there's no title, no level. Like, what do you actually need? Dov, I'm curious for your experience in terms of like, what are the prompts, thinking about yourself and your skill set, but like also kind of abstracting away, like maybe in the non-marketing realm of the business, like what are the other prompts where it's like actually time for somebody to think about bringing on the fractional support?
Well, again, it's going to sound like a cop out, but again, I think it definitely varies by business, right? What the most complex aspects of a business are. Some businesses have a very complex supply chain, for example, right? And others just don't. Others have one product. It's fairly straightforward, right? And it's like, we don't need to do that this early. But I've been inspired by, a bunch of businesses that I've seen out there that have just been able to, they have the person who's the maniacal, like we discussed earlier, obsessed founder, understands the consumer problem, understands how they're solving it for them, understands how to speak to the customer. And basically that, they can grow to, I mean, I've seen this on numerous occasions. There's one example which I always point to, which I just love because I think he's brilliant, which is Joe Lee, Ryan Babenzian, who's done this and has grown that company. Last I heard, it's, I don't know, this is all publicly stated stuff, like $50 million, and he's got like, I don't know, 5 people. It's him, a co-founder, and a couple other full-time people, and the rest is just farmed out because if you're, and this gets to Caleb's point, a slight tweak in his answer, in my opinion, about why marketers get fired quickly. Part of it is because some founders have no idea really what they're looking for or what they need. Also, I think it's the easiest place to point a finger when things aren't going well. And the expectation is, right, because you got money out the door and the money coming in the door from the money going out the door is not, the equation, the math's not working. And it's like, and it's why people hop between, senior marketing leaders very quickly. It's why they hop between agencies very quickly, right? Because, you go to an agency and I've had this experience myself, when we're running the photo business, like this agency is going to change the world and for us, and they know exactly what we need to do and they sell us the bill of goods. And I love agency people. Don't get me wrong. Like I'm not saying this is the case with all, but like the nature of their business is, sometimes, you're going to get on a sales call with the founder and everything's going to sound great. And then you're going to get hand off to a college age kid who's going to be managing your ads. And then you wake up 3 months later and the return on investment is not there. Your CACs aren't CACing, your CPMs aren't CPMing, and it's like, okay, well, it must be the agency. It's not us. And I think that's the thing. This is the to bring it full circle. This is the curse side or the downside of the fact that the barrier to entry has disappeared, is that there's a lot, I don't mean to squash people's dreams, but there's a lot of people who are not really savvy business people that have been able to start a business, right? Very easily without the capital, without the exact know-how. Maybe they're product people, but they're not business people. And that's, that's sort of like the place for OpenStore in the market, right? Is like, you for a company like OpenStore is like on the merchant side is you built the business to $1-2 million, right? You got it there, you hustled, it's amazing, you created something customers love, but you don't have the skill set. I'm not saying this never happens. Of course there are exceptions, but in the majority, you don't have the skill set to take things to the next level to really grow a sustainable business.
I mean, I think that's, please go on.
I was going to add to that. I think that's one of the reasons why a lot of the brands, I end up just doing like a free call with them once a month or once a quarter. Because it's like, you just need, like, these founders are doing an incredible job, but they just don't know what they don't know. And sometimes you don't need a full-time hire. Sometimes they just need someone to point in the right direction. Like I have one brand that I chatted with today who are in talks right now where they're going to have me working 2 hours a week with them, which is not that much, but they have a new agency starting. They don't know how to talk to
They need a
them or how
chaperone.
to
They need a
manage
chaperone.
exactly. And it's just like, okay, let's tailor the hours to actually make sense for what you're paying for. But it's like 1 hour with the agency and then half hour with you just to like figure out what actually came from that call and translate it a little bit. Sometimes that's exactly what people need, these founders.
I have something like this too that, that I've had a couple of conversations about recently on the tech stack side. So like, we all know this world well, and God bless the influencers. They make a lot of money influencing. And this is like what's the matter? Why are you hanging your head, Aaron?
Just curious what email.
Are we going in a direction that I'm not supposed to go in?
No, I'm just curious what email provider is the right next email provider.
This wasn't on the talking points. All right.
I love everybody. I want everybody to be successful. Some of the shameless stuff just gets me, man. I mean, I'm officially at the this is very funny. And I realize it probably happens in every ecosystem, but it is so blatantly obvious in commerce.
Right. So, I mean, some of it, listen, I'm an honest guy. Maybe some of it is some jealousy, right? They're getting the bag because they built a okay. But a lot of it is not, whatever. Maybe it's a little bit of everything, right? Maybe there's some truth in all that. Anyway, anybody watching this, you call either any of the three of us. We'll be happy to take your calls. But you have these founders, again, Caleb, to your point, who don't, and it's not their fault. They just don't know what they don't know. And they see, they follow, they subscribe to the newsletter. They follow them on Twitter and LinkedIn, and then they see this guy says, go use this. And I'm not even saying that like influencer guy is necessarily wrong, but to the point earlier, it's not the same answer for every, just like it's not the same answer as the path for every single, a marketer or agency or whatever, that the answer varies brand to brand. It's the same thing with technology and SaaS decisions, right? Like maybe this tool is right for a brand of this size at this part of its growth, for example, Aaron, nobody's going to use your tool when they're first launching, I don't think, because maybe, well, you'll correct me if I'm wrong, but everybody, Orita is for everybody. It's for everybody from zero to
marketing.
Yes, no, man, you can use it.
The more data, the better. We are very, very good at machine learning. So you're spot on.
To clarify on that, I did send Aaron a brand once. So I was like, hey, could they work with you? And he said the exact same thing. He's like, they're too small. Come back to us once their email lists.
Not everybody would say that. Everybody would say that.
I mean, my answer for brands, I had a call with the guy the other day. I was like, I'll spend an hour with you and talk about anything not Orita related, but like, we'll double our price to you, but you don't sign up for software to like get a small return. It's just like, it's not worth your time.
But that's because you're a good dude. You're a great guy, but also there's an also, you're smart because you're building a relationship, you're sowing the seed so that when that guy gets down the line, right? I mean, so that's just savvy business 101 because you've been around. But my point is like, this happens with tech too, is that like some people are starting to ask me like, can you chaperone us on the diligence call for a certain tool? We don't know the questions to ask. We don't know how to negotiate. We don't know how to do these things. And then we don't know how to onboard. We don't know how to integrate. We don't know how to optimize. And so, I think there's opportunity like this from a fractional perspective in a lot of different areas to these businesses.
If it's okay, I want to stay and keep going down this path. Caleb, you don't get a vote on this one. It's already 2-1 at worst. So.
It's fine. I'm used to this.
You're fine. I'll just go on Slack. The chaperone is such a fascinating concept. Before I got suckered into co-founding Orita, I was trying to figure out what company to start next if I was going to do something. And the one thing that I kept coming back to, and this wasn't a like $1 billion business, but was there's so much noise in commerce. But if I had a friend who was starting a commerce business, what is the stack I would give them? And then it's like, I'd say, look, I mean, at the time it's like, well, of course you use Shopify and of course you use Klaviyo and Gorgeous and Loop and maybe Yap, it's just like, and cool. If you're going to try a more modern version of each of those, here's one other, but like I'd seen enough. And now I haven't been a brand owner for so many years that I feel silly giving recommendations on tech stack. I know more than 99% of people, but I don't, you know what I mean? Like I'm nowhere near as close as the two of you are, just by dint of like the role I now play. And so I was thinking about building a community where it's like actually just like you use like store leads data and you basically do like a G2 or like a Trustpilot type of thing, but like commerce focused and really actively try to get real advice. My question for you, Dov, and you can ignore what I just said, but like not a pitch for like, requests for startups, but if you have a friend and they are starting their business and it's not like zero revenue, say they got 2 million, right? Like they did the work, they've really got something, they've got an audience. How do you go figure out what the next tech decision is? Is it really you go find like a shepherd to bring you along the journey? Or is it like you go look at the Shopify app store and you start there and I don't know. Like,
yeah, well, this is the question. I mean, I've thought a lot about in my own head, right? Like, again, like I referenced earlier, there's the influencers, right? Which I think holds some weight, right? So
it does.
so you subscribe to their newsletters, you read their tweets and their LinkedIn, right? And again, like that's one aspect. It's one component of consideration and of understanding just the social proof. Again, does everybody know in our community? Does everybody really know that's following these people that these people are also maybe sometimes perhaps also in bed with, with the SaaS tool? Do they know that, or are they just taking them at their word? And what are the other ways? Sure, there's the App Store. Personally, I've never used the App Store as like a really good source, like, for discovering new tools. It's a lot of ear to the ground, like just having conversations, with people that I trust that have used the tool before and have actually can speak to positive experience from it is a big deal for me. And that's really how I've discovered a lot of it. But if but I'm, I think I'm the exception, not in any exceptional way. I think I'm just the exception in the sense that I really enjoy trying to keep my finger on the pulse of that stuff. But if I'm a founder of a, $2 million company that's got not a lot of people and that's running around trying to do a million different things to be able to make sure that the business sees tomorrow, right, and is successful, I don't have the time or the know-how to like figure all this out, right? Not to either be like well read about it, to do the diligence calls and do all these things that I'm saying. So yeah, I mean, this is something I thought about. There's you said G2, not exactly the same, but like there's stuff like 1-800 DTC is an example.
Oh yeah,
which is
that's
also
a
like
great
the
one.
yellow pages of this world. So there are things like that, but I don't know of anybody doing this like where they're acting as a chaperone, like to sort of, take them from A to Z of the process. Cause it's not just let me choose the tool and diligence and choose it. It's all the way through. And we see this happen all the time, Caleb, right? You go into a brand, you look at their stack and you see what they're using. And it's like, oh, what do you use this tool for? Well, I don't know what that is. I don't remember. Oh, but you're paying $200 a month for that. And it's, and the tags are still on the site and slowing down your site. And you know that, right? No, what do you mean? What do you mean? I'm paying for that? I didn't know I'm paying for that. And so that's where I think there's, just like it exists on the marketing side and then, on the CX side, right? There's people who come in and do this. And I think there's an opportunity on the tech stack side for this also for people to, get some help.
Caleb, I'm curious for your
Yeah,
thoughts on this. Yeah.
I 100% agree. And that's from the marketing side. There was a brand that I had a call with who had probably $2,000 a month worth of just apps that they were paying for that they
Had no
didn't
idea.
use and didn't know. Another, like on the marketing side, is the same thing. Like one of the first things that I do is just cleanup, where I just go send me a list of every vendor you're paying currently and you paid over the past couple of years. Like another example, I had one where they were spending, I believe it was $4,000 a month or close to that, and they'd been doing it for years, and they had one purchase from that news publication they were paying per month. And I jokingly, because they were fine, but they were glad we cut it, but I jokingly said that's the most expensive purchase I've ever seen in my entire life for a brand that is doing like $100 orders. It's just, oh my gosh. Yeah. Can you imagine being that publication when I found it? They'd be so sad. It was just the easiest thing you could find. But yeah, it's just a lot of, like I said before, is one of the reasons why the brands I focus on, a lot of them I just turn away, is not because I don't want to work with them. It's just like, they jump right in because they hear someone say, you need fractional. That's a buzzword right now. And so they go, well, let's get a fractional CMO. And then I'm sitting there going, for what you pay me, let's go get you an agency for the same cost. And you and I check in once a month, once every 2 months, and I'll just tell you what's going on. And then once it gets to a certain level, like selfishly, like they're going to come to me because I'm the one to help them out.
Caleb, are there specific parts of the stack that you recommend everybody use? Like Shopify, I'm assuming. Like, is there anything else that's a 100% you should be using this?
On the marketing side, most of the brands already come to me using Meta, and that's like the one because it pretty consistently works for everyone. The issue is it's different per brand. I think that's why most brands run into these issues, and these influencers and these people preach that it's everyone needs to be using this, the only solution. And like I've yet to find, very rarely do I find something that consistently works for everybody. And it's one of the reasons I've kind of take the same approach when it comes to like my consulting is, could I just say yes to every person that comes to me? Sure. I could stack up a bunch of retainers. They'd all churn within 2 to 3 months because I can't add value to them. And I don't think tech platforms realize that they're going about it the wrong way either.
Dov, just a quick follow-up there. Is there anything else besides like Shopify Meta that you're like, clearly not everybody, but like 9 out of 10, let's say like $1 million plus Shopify brands use? Not us. Keep going. No, but like, is there anything else that just feels right? Like, is it?
I mean,
yeah.
Yeah. this is a cop out, but no, gorgeous
Right.
is not right for certain brands, right? It's just not. ComSlayer is much better for certain brands. It's $29 a month. It has an AI component. Some brands should not be on gorgeous. The other classic example, is reviews, right? Like some brands should be, if you're starting out or you're up to a certain amount of money, you should only be using Judge.me. Like it's not a conversation. You don't need it. You don't need anything that is richer from a feature set perspective or whatever. Go prove yourself. Right? Go get to a certain level where you start needing these other things. So instead of there's no here's my tech. We've all seen that too. Here's my tech stack. That's great, but the next guy looking at that, right, doesn't know your size compared to his size, et cetera, et cetera.
Can I add something to this? This is also controversial, but the amount of people who, when I first started this, told me you need to build a playbook. And you need to build something you can just pass to people like, this is what you need to do.
Systemize it. Yeah.
And systemize it. And the more I realized, the more I started doing this, the more I was just like, that's actually the problem a lot of the times, because it doesn't work every time. And it doesn't work the same way. And you could build out a playbook, but the playbook's going to change every single time. And then at the end of the day, you're still building a custom playbook. So there's certain things that you can do, like replicate to an extent, but there's a reason why people like me or people like Dov get pulled into a lot of businesses, is because they go in and they think they get this playbook or see someone like, you have to use this. And then it just doesn't work that way. And it's something that I've seen a lot of people when I first started. And I see a lot of advice from people, like this whole concept of the playbook in the AI world type of stuff. And it's just like, that doesn't work most of the time.
I mean, I think if I'm like kind of processing some of what both of you are saying, is there's two different issues. One is like, you need to choose the right software for you at the time. And so like you can go audit and they're not getting value. It doesn't mean though that was the wrong software, because the second part is, are you getting the most out of, again, whether it's software or human or anything, right? Is like, are you actually using the tool or the resource in the right way and maximizing? And I think like people forget about that. So even if it's the right choice, if you don't do the work, like on top of that, it's kind of all for naught. Dov, what's up?
I raised my hand.
I saw that. This is very cool. Nobody's ever raised a hand on one of these. I feel very.
Well, I didn't want to distract you, but it ends up distracting you anyway, right? So some product feedback for all the Zoom and Riverside types. I want. There's something you said that I want to hit on here, because this is like one of the hot topics right now around in an AI world, like of just do it all automatically. I don't want to name names, but I think we're all familiar. There's a company out there that has been dragged through the mud over the last number of months about their tool that claimed that, you weren't going to need a CMO anymore, because we were going to automate all your ads with the click of a button, and it would be so easy. And right. And what started to happen, right, like is, it's all, this is a big debate and something I think about a lot, is that the managed service concept, right? Like the software and a service, not as a service, right? Like these tools, they claim AI, and that's the biggest buzzword acronym of all. And everybody's like, AI, it's all going to happen automatically. I don't even have to do anything. I'm just going to sit back and collect the money. And the point is that like, yeah, maybe some of this stuff will get there eventually, but there's always this component of being able to use the tool the right way. And so as a software company, they have a decision to make. Do they want to be in the business of also providing a managed service? Let's call it, I'm just going to use the example we used before, the yacht pros of the world, right? Who you're going to have a rep, and you're going to meet on a weekly or biweekly basis, and they're going to give you recommendations on how you could better use the tool, things you could try, things to experiment and test with. Or are you going to be the Judge.me's of the world? You're going to spend $15 a month. You're not going to have any reps. You'll have a support function if somebody wants to submit a ticket, but like it really does run itself, because it's low frill. It's not heavy on feature set, and like it does what it does so well, to the extent that the guy that they've got 70,000 Shopify merchants using the tool, and that's their lane. And that's great. That's their business, and they're wildly successful. And then there's other businesses in their category that do something for a little more upmarket and that provide a heightened level of service. So, this idea that, that these things just can operate on their own. And that's when, Caleb, you get into situations like the one you talked about with your brand, where brands, like, they start with something and they just get distracted by the next fire, or they don't have the bandwidth on the team to deal with it, and it gets forgotten. And then forget about that. They totally forgot about it at all, and they're paying for it, and they didn't even know that it still existed. I think, Aaron, this is what you were alluding to. There's so many in between where it's like, oh yeah, we use that. It's kind of good. I think it's okay. I think it's working for us, but there's no experimentation being done. There's nobody paying attention to mining the house, paying attention to the performance. And it's such a waste. It's
I mean,
just a waste.
we see it. It is very apparent right now that different customers use our product in different ways based on when they onboarded. And we're doing an initiative to effectively like re-onboard, for lack of a better term, customers who signed up a year ago, because there's so much stuff that's been developed, some great, some, whatever it is. Like not everything's useful for everybody, but it's like, cool. Stop thinking about like us, think about what are your objectives. And then our job is to support those objectives. And so it's like, it's been very, very fascinating to see it, because there's some brands who like, they're not getting as much as they should because they're not using it. And it's like, it's shame on us, not shame, right? Like they shouldn't.
Do you have a dedicated team that meets with them consistently or not?
So we do. Our biggest team, I mean, like our biggest team is our ML engineers and data team. Like that is our product, right? It's not like, but right behind it, and maybe even the same quantity, is like CS. More of my time and one of my co-founders' time is focused on CS than anything outside of like being co-founders, right? And then we have like an incredible leader. Like we have an awesome CS team. And the point is, the framing that I used 6 months ago is like, our product is actually product plus people. It's not just product. It's not just like the product will just work. I mean, Caleb, you saw it where it's just like automatically working in the background, but then it's like, yeah, but we can also give you insights based on what we saw at Win Brands to like brand by brand, that would be different. Right. And so I think companies really screw up where they think about like, oh, it's just a product, it'll work. It is truly product plus people. Whether the people are you guys is like the fractional who are helping get the most out of it, or it's like the internal CS, but like there has to be expertise on how to make it work.
Can I add one thing to
Please.
what Dov's point? Because there's just so much buzz and hype around so many different tools and things right now. I was talking to someone that works in private equity, and they were talking to me about how they're kind of tasked right now to find more things to invest in that are AI driven. And they were like, there's just so many things right now. What is your opinion on it? And asked me. And I kind of view it as like early day crypto is kind of where I'm at with it, where there's so many, what type of coins out there that don't mean a thing. But then there's a Bitcoin and an Ethereum, and there's so many others that have now stood out where people go, oh, that was obvious that should have been. But like 10 years ago, no one knew. And I think like that's where it's at, where it's like the tech is sound, but there's so much screaming from so many people on LinkedIn. I have muted so many people, not because I think that no, you're fine, Aaron. Yeah, you're fine. Don't ask me what you've been posting the past 6 months, but yeah, you're fine. But I've gone the complete opposite direction where like, you look at my LinkedIn, I'm only posting about my family, about work-life balance, about how like all that sort of stuff. And I'll post like hey, here's a quote from a client of mine or things like that once in a while. But it's because I just got so tired and sick of being screamed at by people about this stuff where it's like, no one knows. Like we're not to the Bitcoin yet. We're not to the Ethereum yet. We're at early like dog coins and all these other things.
I haven't figured out the acronym, but I really want there to be something that's like AI in name only. Like it's not it's not actually. We actually were very reticent. It was finally a couple months ago, and Adrienne, who's our wonderful CMO, finally pushed us. She's like, you guys are idiots. Like actually mention AI, because like both of my co-founders are machine learning engineers, which means we actually do the work, and it's actually big data, and it's actually AI. But it's like, you shouldn't buy us because we're AI. You should buy us because like we drive impact, and AI is a means to drive that impact type of thing. But man, there's so much noise. I see it because I'm still like once in a while write checks. So I see a lot of early stage companies, and like just like being in this ecosystem.
Can I tell a quick story on this? Because I think it fits to this perfectly. So I was a data analyst to start. So I like learned how to do SQL, learned how to do a bunch of different coding things. And I remember once, this was years ago, there was a CEO who was raving about this machine learning thing that just came out, and it could forecast what product they were going to buy next. And it was something that was like this huge innovation within the company. Everyone was ecstatic about it. Back then it was machine learning, but they'd probably call it AI now. And everyone was just like buzzing about it. And so I go to the engineer and I'm like, what is it actually? Because I like, not that I don't believe in you all, but like I very much doubt it is this amazing thing. He says, I just looked at her purchase history on the website and then just would send her an email for the exact same thing. And that was literally this innovation, AI, machine learning thing. But it was put forward in this presentation as this innovative thing. All it was they would just go and say, this person purchased a skincare product 6 months ago. They typically buy it again in 6 months. Let's tell her to buy it or tell him to buy it in the next little bit. Like that's what they were doing. So they got all these executives all excited about it. Really behind the scenes, it was just like an automated email trigger.
It sounds like great markers. That's just telling a story, right?
But there's so much of that in this that it's just like you pull back the curtains. This is not that.
Guys, I love it. We have 5-ish minutes, I actually want to turn a little bit and see like, you meet with a lot of brand founders. What is some advice that you think everybody should be thinking about? Not like what's your tech stack, but like, what are the things that you just like kind of want to grab them by the shoulders and be like, listen, young man, young lady, like here's what you should be doing to go build a growing, sustainable brand, right? What are the like things that you find yourself repeating over and over when you're meeting with folks? Dov, I'll put you on the spot first.
Well, I mean, it's a perfect segue, AI, right? I mean, like, but let's talk about that for a second, because everybody's saying it, but nobody really actually knows what it means, right? Everybody just says,
Artificial intelligence.
right. Ooh, artificial intelligence. Wow. Sounds funky. Let's get that in our business. And yeah, I mean, but nobody really knows what to actually do. And I think that, can you guys hear me still? Yeah. Okay. I don't know if I can hear you. Something happened with my headset. Just some sign of life. Speak. Can I hear you? Yes.
Hi.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. You're back. Okay. So, we're talking about AI and I can't even get my AirPods straight. So, and this is where, Caleb, to your point, like it could be very overwhelming as a brand operator when you have to deal with all these other things and everybody's talking about AI. It's very overwhelming to figure out, okay, well, what AI tools? There's ChatGPT, there's Claude, there's Lovable, there's all these things. And somebody showed me I could do this. Somebody showed me I could do that. I'm going to try to master every single system. I think that the best advice where we are given at this specific point in time is really to just focus on one tool. And the one tool that I focus on, that I think really almost everybody should focus on, unless they have some other technical expertise, is ChatGPT. And just figure out ways that one tool, which is commonly used by, there are competitors, but that's the most used one by people even in their everyday lives, right? For their own personal things. And so the behavior is there, the history is there, the context is there, and just like the learning around that, how to use the tool properly and benefit from it most is there. It's part of, the toothbrush test. It's the thing they just used repeatedly. And so keep leaning into that for your business and figure out ways for that specific tool to better your business, to make your business more efficient, right? In areas where maybe, I don't like this idea that it's getting people out of jobs, because I don't believe that that's really true, but certainly making people more efficient in their jobs so that they can do more just overall. They're not getting fired, but now they're going to be able to do, 130% of what they did before because they have this tool. Just focus on one tool. And by the way, there are people out there doing this. I know a couple of people specifically that are just going into companies right now and are teaching them how to use ChatGPT for an e-commerce business, not any other fancy implementation or any other tool otherwise. So for me, like, it really is AI, but really, really in a meaningful way, figure out how it could benefit you, because I really do believe you're going to get left behind, if you don't. So that's I don't know. It's my TED Talk. Thanks for coming.
I love it.
Caleb,
you're
what do you
muted
got?
the whole time, so we don't. No, I'm just kidding. Caleb, last-ish word to you. I'll let you guys both say something else at the end. What are the things that you find yourself repeating over and over to brand founders or brand operators?
Yeah, I think, Dov, to your point, I'll just add, like, I 100% agree. Like, I use ChatGPT now, and literally, like, things as simple as, like, I had a call just right before this with a company I'm consulting with, and they're having me put together, like, very comprehensive rags and trackers on a lot of things. And we set it up where it records the call. I take it, paste it into ChatGPT, and then it fills out the entire thing for me. Saves us so much time. But just simple things like that, where it's not a complicated integration. It's actually not even integrated in. It's just like take the call recording and transcript and paste it in. Just simple things like that. From my end, my thing I'm constantly screaming is very similar to your point of just go for ChatGPT, is just be simple, be basic, and do it well. And stop what's next? Sometimes what's next is just do the thing you're doing now, but slightly bigger and slightly better. And it's the same issue of like, oh, they have 1 million apps they're paying for. It's the same issue with like, oh, they started adding in all these partnerships they're paying for, they don't realize. Like some of the examples I used earlier, a lot of that just stems from the fact that they see people screaming on LinkedIn, or to see their friends, or they go to events and they're like, we're doing all this cool stuff. And it's like, I had a call with a founder. I don't remember the name of the company, and I don't know if they want me to say it anyway, but they're doing tens of millions of dollars. And they're growing at 5-10% a year, and they are doing the simplest stuff you'll ever hear. And the founder is extremely proud of it. And he's just like, yep, we're profitable. We've been profitable for 5 years. We're not adding new apps. I don't want to hear another agency pitch. We're doing well. And we're just going to keep going down this track. And no one wants to hear that, because they want to be exciting. They want to be the next cool thing. But that's what I tell a lot of founders, especially early. It's just like, don't waste your money. Don't hire me. Go get a really good consultant who can just execute ads expertly, and do that for 6 months and come back to me. And they're always shocked by that. But it's like, that's what you need right now. And that's okay.
I love it, man. It's awesome advice. Focus wins without fail. If Instagram is working as a channel, you don't need to go diversify, like keep hammering Instagram, right? Like, and then when the time is right and you have more capacity, then you do it. All right, we got a minute left. Where can people find you and what should they reach out to you about? Dov, you first.
So I'm going first. If anybody can help me get the @Dov handle on Twitter, I'd love that. I'm not there. I'm at DG Quint on Twitter or X. LinkedIn, just find me. There's not many Dov Quints out in the world. There's actually one, but I think he's the only other one. So
he's actually on tomorrow's episode.
Really? Okay. I'm going to tune in. I'm going to tune in for that. Okay. All right. I'm not giving out my phone number here, am I? I mean, what should we do here? Yeah. You can find me on the internet. Just Google me.
I love it. Caleb, how about yourself?
Yeah, same. Find me on LinkedIn. I have a website. You can submit a form if you want to, but LinkedIn, you can find me there. My website's madhouseconsulting.co. And I tell people this because I found out you have to pay like $50,000 for the .com. So I'm not going to do that. So we're .co over here.
Madhouse.co, my man. This is perfect. Guys, I took a bunch of notes. This was genuinely so joyful for me. I appreciate it. I learned a lot. Thank you both for taking so much time.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Have a good one.
Do you wish your D2C brand had the marketing superpowers of big tech? At Orita.ai, we've done the hard, mathy machine learning work to make that happen. Our advanced AI, once reserved for Silicon Valley giants, finds high-intent customers, pauses those who aren't ready to buy, and even zaps the bots. Over 150 plus e-commerce brands trust Orita to add hundreds of thousands of dollars in incremental revenue with our AI. If you're a marketer at a D2C brand, it's time to level up. Visit Orita.ai for a free email engagement audit and turn your customer list into a revenue engine.